Hello and welcome to the Cold Coffee Club, a podcast brought to you by Houston Moms. We're here to give you a little bit of that mom-to-mom connection, fun, and conversation amidst all the chaos. Join us as we take a break from doing all the things and explore the wide spectrum of this crazy motherhood role. We'll interview fun guests, talk about cool grown-up topics, laugh, share, and grow together. So go ahead, reheat that coffee, and put your feet up. Here we go.
Alrighty, hey Cold Coffee Club. We are so excited to be back with another episode. Today is our first episode with Tiffany being my co-host. I know that I mentioned that Tiffany and Bree would be joining us as consistent co-hosts. Bree couldn't join us for this one, but Tiffany's here, and we're so excited to get into the groove of having like real co-hosts. Like everyone's been great, everyone's been super helpful, but it's a lot of work trying to get multiple people's schedules and like, when can you record? Okay, I can't hear it. It was a lot. So I'm excited to have them as guests from now every now and then, but having consistent co-hosts is super exciting, and I've missed having this. So thank you so much. I'm so
exciting. I'm very excited. Like my kids don't really even know. They've only heard me on this podcast one time, and they were so confused. They were like, "That sounds like you, Mom," and I was like, "It is me." And they're like, "Why are you on the radio?"
Right. Oh, that's so funny. So yeah, they don't get it. They don't get it at all. My kids do the same thing. They're like, "Well, but who wants to listen to you?" And I'm like, "Hopefully somebody."
Don't take away my joy.
Right. So mean. Well, I'm pumped to get into this topic with you. This is going to be a touchy one. This is in no way meant to bash anybody or anything like that, but we're sharing our experiences dealing with in-laws and what that looks like. You're married and you have in-laws and all that, and then I have ex-in-laws and what that looks like for me, kind of navigating our relationship now that I'm divorced. So I feel like we can hash out some interesting stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Excited to talk about
it. Before we do, we're gonna spill some tea, and we're going to touch on a couple of our new segments that we are introducing to the Cold Coffee Club. Yeah. So for starters, let's spill some tea. What is your win and fail, if you have one, this week?
Yeah, so my win is the kids were in a play this past week, last Friday, and it was just all the things, right? So as they're getting ready for the play, and like making sure everybody had my daughter's hair was done. We got everything. We got the unitard. Got her there halfway on time. So, and then really we invited people this time because last year we didn't think it was like super big deal. We thought it was like a regular kids play, half produced, half directed. But at their school, it is a huge deal. Like it's in a huge auditorium, and it is all the things. And so it was really good last year. So my girlfriend is in town, one of my best friends, 20 plus years I've known her, babysitters, and like even one of the babysitters was like really devastated she couldn't come because she got sick. So the grandparents couldn't come this year, but I'm hoping next year they can come. And they just did so well. Like they were just super excited. They were pumped to be there, and they were super confident doing it. So, it's one of those things, like it kind of overwhelms the school schedule a little bit in terms of the learning. But I always find that, this aspect, the fine arts, is really just as important as, the regular ABCs of life, right? Because and they don't do it, the entire year. They're not prepping for the entire year. It's for about a month, particularly with the younger age kids. So it does take some time away, but this is such an important skill to be able to get up in front of people and just do your part. And it was just really wonderful to see them continue to just shine like that. So I'm really excited for that. Yeah. And then my fail actually goes along with the play, is that it was very clear what my daughter was supposed to wear. So we got that, but I was unclear as to what my son was supposed to wear because they said the teacher was making the uniform or the costume. So we got the black right. we got the black shirt right. He came in black shorts, and it was supposed to be black pants. So my husband had to run at the last minute. Thankfully, they were like one of the second to last scene, and he still got it all done before the play even started. But that was definitely a fail. I kept saying, like, what are the boys supposed to wear? What are the boys supposed to wear? And I could have brought, I didn't even know what. So yeah, that was a fail. But everybody was fine. It happened okay. He looked great, and he was fine. So yeah, can't get it all done. Like it feels like I got a 99 on it as opposed to the 100.
Yep. Can't get it all.
That's right.
Oh, how fun. That's exciting. So my win, I have 2 wins actually.
Awesome.
Well, actually, no, I don't. Hold on. I take that. I'm going to stick with 1. Just maybe I need 1 to roll over for next week. You got to find your wins where you can find them. So
exactly.
My win this week is that I got to hang out with our new guest co-host, Bree Griff. She and I went and got we went and did Cinco de Mayo together on Saturday.
Nice.
And so we went to the whole Cinco de Mayo festival, and I'd never been to Ninfa's. I've heard of Ninfa's several times here in Houston. And I'm like, yeah, no, I get it. And they're like, no, but you have to go sometime. Like, it's so good. So we finally went, and it was like, where has this been all my life? And they had
Is it that good?
It was so good.
And this is the one on navigation, right?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was so good. We had the best time. They had incredible drinks. We set a 2-drink max, and I was like, this is all we're doing. We'll get 2 drinks, and we'll have like food and everything. And their drinks are insanely good. And I had shredded chicken nachos that I did not expect to be like really, really good. I was like, it's basic, whatever. I just kind of wanted something real simple and basic.
Yeah.
They were so much better than I expected.
I've heard of it.
Yes. And then, like, I am not a desserts person. I'm not into sweets at all. But they had a margarita infused key lime pie. So just like seeing the title, I was like, wait a minute. Like, I need to check this out. We had it, and it was insanely delicious. I was like, I don't even like dessert, and I was so into it. I think I ate most of it. Sorry, Brie, my bad. But we were splitting it, and I was like, yeah, no, I want another bite. Thank you.
I don't even like key lime pie, and that sounds so good.
It was delicious. It was so good. So we had a blast. It was so much fun, and I'm so glad we got to get together. And then my fail is right now my youngest kiddo is home from school. He threw up in his bed last night.
No.
Oh boy. And you know how like at 3 a.m, you're just not all there. And so just like seeing it, I'm just like I don't. All right. And I remember when I was a kid, my mom said I threw up in my bed, and she just threw all my sheets away. She's like, I'm not even dealing with all this. And I considered doing that, but I was like, I'll wash it. So like, yeah. It was a whole process, rinsing it out in the bed. It was a lot. It was. So he's homesick.
Poor baby.
And I know it's so, and we can't figure out like what the deal is. I think just, he went to bed early last night. I think he's just worn out. He just got home from his dad's, and I think they just had a lot of fun all week.
Wow. And is that the stomach flu?
No, and he's fine now. He skipped dinner last night, got sick in bed. He fell asleep by like 6:30, which I was like, something's off. Something's and then, so he's like, my stomach still hurts, but he's just hanging out watching Ninja Turtles. And I was like, remember when you were a kid and it was like, don't laugh on a sick day, because then it's like, oh, you feel fine, right? You should have gone.
Yes, right.
And he was like hopping through the house, and I was like, wait a minute,
what are you doing? What are you doing?
I thought you were sick. But yeah, it's a bummer when they don't feel good. But he's just hanging out, living his best life.
3 o'clock in the morning. Oh,
yes. Oh, it was
the worst.
I just hear a knock on my door, and I was like, oh man.
3 o'clock is the worst.
It is. It is. It was the worst. And I mistakenly went to bed around like 1.
Yeah, exactly. No, it always happens on those nights. Yep. Where you haven't even been asleep, like you're barely in sleep, and they're like, "Mom," you're like, "I just went to sleep.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly. And I knew I shouldn't go to bed that late. I knew it was a bad choice, and then I'm getting paid for it.
I hope he feels better.
Yes, thank you. All right, what is your cream and sugar this week? What is something you highly recommend to our listeners?
So, staying on the tip of good food, I went to a place. The chef is a James Beard winner, so she has a really great story. I first, so this restaurant is called Street to Kitchen, and the reason why this is even my cream and sugar is because nobody in my house likes this food because it's spicy just by definition, and so nobody, like not even my husband. And so my girlfriend, like I said, one of my best friends is in town, and she's like, I have a craving for Asian food. So we got some recommendations, but I was scrolling through my open tabs on my phone, and I remembered, and I saw that I had opened a tab for her restaurant, and I was like, oh, we should go there. So we went, got it to go because I really didn't feel like staying out, but we stayed long enough to have a drink. Oh my goodness, lemon! We had a lemon like martini. Absolutely wonderful. He made it with tequila. It was super great. The vibe there is even super great. So I'm definitely going back to even just sit and eat. And the food was super good, but like their mild is spicy. So we got fried rice, and my husband takes one bite, and he's like, I was like, what? And he's like, did you order? What's the spice level? And I was like, it's mild. He's like, for both of them? I was like, yes. So it's Thai food. So I think like they just have a regular level of the spice in general. So I'm thinking like maybe if we eat there, that we can maybe tone it down. Right. But like regular, it was a little spicy. I was fine with it. And then I just, it's always like, how do you make lemons into lemonade? And I thought about it. I was like, this is food that I can order, that I can put in the refrigerator, and nobody's going to want it. I can keep it in there all week, and nobody's going to be like, hey, Mom, can I have your rice? No, it's going to be all mine. So she's great.
Listen, this is like how we survive as moms. We got to find those little things where it's like, this can just be mine.
It can just be mine. Yeah. So she has a great story. I met her and her husband initially at the Urban Harvest Farmers Market on Buffalo Speedway years ago, and she had been there for a while. She was actually right around the corner from me here in the Heights. Then she moved to, and she's still in East Downtown, but she's moved to a couple different locations, and she's a James Beard winner. So her food is super good. The menu's not super like overdone, but all the food is super good, super, super good. So I highly recommend this place. I can't wait to just go in there with like a book or my laptop and just sit and have a drink and eat by myself because it's that kind of vibe. So
right. Yeah. And what's it called again?
Street to Kitchen.
Gotcha. Perfect. I love it.
It's on Navigation. No, that's not right. It's on Harrison. Is it Harrison? We have a Harrison Boulevard. I think so.
I'm not good at street.
Along the train tracks.
Yes, totally. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah,
so super good.
We'll definitely put that in our show notes so people can find it.
Harrisburg, I think that's what it was.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Well, awesome. I love recommendations for restaurants because I feel like I end up going to like the same places over and over and over again, and I'm like, what? I know there's a lot out there, so love this. I'm definitely gonna check that out. My cream and sugar this week is. Okay, so Netflix decided to do a live event. It was the Roast of Tom Brady. And listen, back in the day, I was a huge fan of the Comedy Central roast. They were hilarious. I love that like people can come together in this space and be mean, but like also in like the spirit of love and like, I'm just roasting you. It's fine. I love you. At the end of the day, we're good. And this roast, so it started at 7:00 last night. It was live. I was still getting other kids to bed. So I wasn't live when I watched it. I turned it on and it was the funniest roast I have ever seen. I remember like when Chris Rock, after he was slapped, he said, "This is the greatest night in the history of television." I say this roast being live, this was a huge moment. It was
really.
There were points where I was like, uh-oh, they took it too far. Uh-oh. I was really worried. And I swear I was watching it with my boyfriend and I was like, there were a couple points where I was like, I feel like the mood shifted and people are mad at each other. Like there were moments where I was like, I don't know if they're friends anymore.
Right.
And
I heard he said that at one point. He was like, don't say it again.
Yes, there were some tense moments, and you know, as a football fan, and as a not Patriots fan, I was like, Tom Brady. Like,
yes.
I laughed, but then there were points where I was like, I feel bad for him. Like, listen, I'm just saying, if you see like a screenshot, like you don't even need to know the context, but if you saw a screenshot of Tom Brady's face, the majority of the roast, he looked like he was gonna cry, and it was like, okay, I actually feel bad. Like, oh no.
Oh no.
And the fact that it was live, you could just see kind of in people's faces, like, uh-oh. But the comedy was brilliant. That is right up my alley. I love comedy is what I watch most. I love stand-up. I love going to stand-up shows. The comedy was like superior. There's a comedian, Nikki Glazer, who is kind of known for just being really raunchy and just her stuff is it gets kind of a lot sometimes. I'm like, okay, well, you didn't need to say all that. But last night, I swear that was like the highlight of her career. Her writing was insane. Her delivery was amazing. There was, you know, after she finished, Kevin Hart was like, look, this is live. I don't know if y'all can see it, but she just got a standing ovation and it was well deserved. Like, she was absolutely brilliant.
Wow, that's awesome.
I didn't know she was that talented. So yeah, it was just such a phenomenal moment of television where it was just like, oh, it was 3 hours long. And it wasn't like it flew by. It was just like, whoa. And like Bill Belichick was there, who was the head coach of the Patriots. And there's some animosity there between Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, which was very interesting to see that dynamic.
Is there really?
Yeah. With Tom Brady moving from the Patriots to
to go to Tampa Bay.
There was some animosity. Drew Bledsoe, who was Tom Brady's predecessor, he was there, and there was some interesting dynamics there.
Wow.
Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, was there, and there were some jokes being made about just controversies, and it was like, oh boy.
Because they were stepping in it. They kept stepping in it.
Oh my gosh.
They kept stepping in.
It was wild. It was I was so glad that it was live because I'm like, I feel like they would have cut so many things out if it weren't live. And just it was brilliant. It was an absolutely brilliant show. And it was so funny. Like, I fell off the bed. That is awesome. I did fall off the bed laughing.
You fell off the bed laughing?
Oh, there was one part where my boyfriend and I were both laughing, and I'm like upside down on the bed like this, and I just rolled over.
Wow. Laughing. I'm going to watch it this week, and I'm just going to, I'm going to text you, and I'm going to be like, okay,
It was a solid roast. It was. I loved it so much, and I feel like everyone should see it. Everyone should be talking about it. If it's not like your thing, watching people be really mean to each other, this isn't for you. But it was pretty mean.
Well, it really, I do get uncomfortable watching them, but for Tom Brady, I'll take an L for this.
Right. It was all the levels of inappropriate, but I absolutely loved it. I thought it was just so well done. So awesome. Yeah, if that's your thing like me and you like laughing at inappropriate things, then go watch it.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, one new segment I wanted to introduce is called Java Jams. And so I want to just kind of spotlight like something that we're listening to these days. Like, right now I randomly went into like a spiral of, I was talking with one of my friends about just like music we used to listen to as kids and like guilty pleasure music where it's like, I'm embarrassed that I listened to this, but it has like a special place in my heart. And when I was like 8 or 9, I used to be obsessed with Hanson. I don't know they were so corny and it was adorable. They were just precious. And I just thought of them, and all of a sudden I was going through my Spotify and I was listening to like their old albums, and I'm like, this music was like, this stuff meant so much to me. I saw them in Hollywood when I was like 8 or 9, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I love y'all so much. Like, they were just so wholesome and precious. And so I've gone on like a spiral of Hanson music, and I'm embarrassing myself just listening to it. I'm just like, yeah, okay. Like, it's
like listening to New Kids on the Block today.
Yes. I feel like Hanson's worse than New Kids, though.
Really?
I think it's more embarrassing. I feel like New Kids, I don't think it's as corny, and so like I turn it down. Like when I'm in the car and then I like roll up next to somebody, I'm like, let me turn this down. I'm embarrassed. But those are my Java jams for this week. So, whatever. What about you? What's your Java jam this week?
I am like particularly with this weekend, having been with the play with my kids. They did Lion King, and so I forgot how good the soundtrack was of the Lion King, like Hakuna Matata, and they just have all these beautiful songs. And so that was the first time I had seen it as a play, period, anywhere, the Lion King. So I really forgot how well the entire soundtrack was, and it just reminded me, like, Lion King came out in a period of time where they really focused a lot on soundtracks. And sometimes the soundtrack could be even more popular than the movie. I mean, we can talk, that could be a whole nother show, like movies that where the soundtrack outpaced even the movie itself. And I think Lion King is definitely one of them, because the music was phenomenal. The kids did a really great job, but it just really took me back to a really like a different place of like remembering just how good it was at that time. So yeah, the soundtrack of Lion King has been kind of playing on repeat. I saw my daughter afterwards like dancing, doing her dance to the soundtrack, to the song that she came out. So it was just super cute. It was super cute.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I remember that era of like the soundtracks were just bangers.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Boomerang.
I forget. Ooh, yes. Oh my gosh, that just came
the
up
Boomerang.
Recently. Yeah,
the Boomerang soundtrack.
I was talking about, we were also talking about Disney movies too, and I was like, remember the Tarzan soundtrack? I was like, Phil Collins had no business being that amazing. I was like, what is this?
And that's it, right? There was a period of time, for people who don't know, where they got artists, like the top artist of the time, to do the soundtrack. So like Boomerang, it was Babyface. So he directed that whole thing, produced the whole thing, and it was phenomenal. Like, if you've seen the movie once, then you don't even need to see the movie again, because the soundtrack tells the story, right? Yes. Tony Braxton, that was one of Tony Braxton's premieres. So yeah, Phil Collins on I mean, like, who gets Phil Collins to do a soundtrack for a Disney movie?
For a kids movie, right?
But that's what it was back at a certain period of time. Was you didn't like, it wasn't just orchestras or anything else like that, or just people that you didn't know of. It was, they were trying to pump up the soundtrack. Maybe the movie itself didn't win, but the soundtrack itself would win. So yeah, I love that time. I miss that time, in fact.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh gosh. Oh, the soundtracks.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Well, let's jump into our topic of the hour. We are going to chat about in-laws. And so, like, for starters, what does your relationship look like? If you want to keep it general, cool.
Yeah.
Look like for your with your in-laws. And again, to our listeners, we are not here bashing our in-laws, but there are struggles and there are like tough things that you have to deal with bringing on someone else's family into your life. And then once you have kids and what that looks like, and everyone has their own, version of what parenting should look like, or what, should be allowed because you're at grandma's house. Like, well, no, we don't do that. But thank you. So describe for me a little bit what your relationship is with your in-laws.
Yeah, so it's an interesting dynamic. It's positive. I will say overall it is positive. My husband's parents were not married. are not married. So it really is two different sets of in-laws. And he didn't even really grow up with his father when he was growing up. So he's obviously a lot closer to his mom's side of the family. But he did also spend a significant period of time with his dad's side of the family. And both sides, again, I get along with great. I would say that, like, and we and that's why I say it is positive. I will say that, like, not problematically, but if I've had any issues, it's definitely just been with the mom itself, and for a variety of different reasons. But then if she's taken out of the equation, everyone else is like super wonderful. So, like, right after we got married, he has a younger cousin, so he came for the summers and would spend a couple weeks with us, and we would take him to camps and things like that. And, like, it's his cousin, and then I was the one coordinating all the camps and the schedule and everything like that. I was like, okay, dude, like, you've got to step in and do this. His father is a super great grandfather. Like, the kids love both of their grandparents. They were here for the holidays, in fact, both of them, and they have like a pretty cool relationship, which is also very interesting to me. And so, like, they just sat around and hung out with the kids, and the kids love them. So I love that for the kids.
Yeah.
One of the things that I will say is kind of interesting to me, that when this is kind of like the, not jealousy, but envy of things, is like, so I remember when we first got married, his mom was like, you should have 4 babies. And he will take care of he'll take care of you. And I was like, we're not having 4 kids. But now that they're here, I expected like a lot more engagement, even calling them. And she just doesn't do that, right? So, like, the level of interaction isn't as high as I would like. They're older, so they're, other than, like, we left them here when we went to the movies, like, they don't go and spend a week at grandma or grandpa's or anything like that. But they really enjoy them. So that's the one thing that cartoons do. They give this perspective of what grandparents are, so they have created that for themselves with them, and they really enjoy them. So I enjoy them when we're around them. They really enjoy the kids. They do send them gifts. Like, my father-in-law gave them each $100. Even my husband's grandfather on his mom's side, he gave them money. So they have they're just really welcoming kids, and they have welcomed me into the family too. My husband's an only child, so there is this, like, sense of, like, I'm the woman in his life, and so I'm not necessarily competing, but there aren't siblings. He does have a brother, but he, like, I haven't seen him in years. So yeah, it's cool in that sense, for sure.
Yeah. So, I'm still, it's interesting how my relationship with my in-laws has changed since getting divorced. When we were married, I still consider them family. And so, they invite me to stuff, I invite them to stuff, which is great. I'm an only child, and my ex-husband has 5 sisters. And it's a lot. I sometimes joke and say, like, God knew to skip all this for me. He knew I was not going to handle a bunch of siblings. Like, how come you didn't this? And mom never this. And I knew that I couldn't handle all that on the regular. So, like, I enjoy his family from afar. It can be a lot. It can be a whole lot, especially women in general. Just getting along and hanging out, that kind of stuff. It's interesting. And so 5 sisters, that's a lot. They're lovely. They're great, but it's a lot. And then, my ex-mother-in-law is very involved with our kids. She wasn't always this level of involved, but the boys stay with her. She babysits them when they're at their dad's house, things like that. So she's been a big help, and she and I have actually gotten a lot closer. Unfortunately, it's because, like, we both agree that her son is difficult. So then that helped us bond.
Right.
Like, no, I get it. She's like, I get it. Like, yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So that's great. Raising biracial children and having different backgrounds. My ex-husband grew up differently than I did, and race does come into play. He's white, and things that he experiences or knows about the world for himself does not always translate to me. And that was a point of contention for us while we were married, is like, how do you not see that the world is like this? And he was like, how do you not see it's this? So there were disconnects a lot. And even now it's just like, oh, we're not on the same page. And so, I do see, even dealing with my in-laws, seeing that we don't all think the same, which obviously, but they have different political views, they have different views on life in general. And so that does cause some not issues or anything, but just friction where it's like, oh, that's what you think? Huh. Okay. Which, do you, that if that works for you and that makes sense to you, I guess really there's nothing to do about it. And I'm not going to change your mind. So whatever. But that is difficult sometimes to navigate, especially with, their involvement with our children. And it's like, oh, I don't want them to build these ideals. I'm working on these other things over here, but it is what it is. So just kind of navigating that has been probably the biggest challenge that I've dealt with them. Just, not believing the same things and not, I tend to have a very open mind about people in general. I might not understand everything that everyone's doing, every choice that people are making or whatever, but I tend to be as open-minded as I can be. And my in-laws aren't quite the same way. And they have very strong opinions the opposite way about people. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, just navigating that and finding ways to hey, I can still care about you. I respect you. I think you're wrong, but that's that.
And those are difficult. Those are difficult conversations. And you're right. It's not always worth sometimes bringing it up to them, but then trying to circle back with the kids. I've said even, and if I put myself in my husband's shoes, I have a sister, I have a brother. My sister is more involved in our life, and he didn't grow up with siblings. So he has seen our relationship have its ups and downs, right? And so he doesn't always sometimes, and he didn't grow up with his siblings on his dad's side. So he doesn't always get the dynamics that happen with us. And we're two very strong-willed people, very strong-minded people. And so she'll say things and he'll be like, hey, what are you trying to say there? And she's like, and I'm just like, and I've told her, I'm like, hey, you just can't do that. You can't say that. And so when he says it, now she kind of understands. But so he even probably has a perspective, but he doesn't even deal with nearly as many in-laws because I'm not close to my parents, either of them, for different reasons. So he doesn't really have to deal with the different attitudes and the different perspectives. Like my dad, it was one of the reasons why I even said for my dad that I was just like, I can't. It's not even that I can't, it's that I can't manage it. That's what it was. It was like, I can't manage these types of reactions and outbursts and things like that. And we are just very, I will say, protective of our kids in that sense, where we really want people around us that support our values. Right. So, and I can appreciate, you're saying, that's difficult to do when you have in-laws that don't reflect that.
Yeah. And we as parents set little boundaries and rules, okay, the kids don't have a can of Coke. But then they go hang out with Granny or whoever, and it's like, oh, you guys had Coke today. Oh, okay. Huh. And it's so hard, and especially now being divorced, I have less control over certain things. When they're with their dad, I have no control. So that is probably the hardest part, and knowing that their priorities are different. Their priorities when they're with their dad or hanging out with their granny tends to be more like, we want to have fun. I want to make the kids happy. I want them to enjoy hanging out with me. And I'm like, yeah, but we don't do those things.
Yeah.
So like, I don't understand. You can have fun without doing the things that I'm very much against.
Yeah. Well, I remember when my kids were born, and for the audience, I have twins, and, you know, she was just always kind of like, particularly that first year after my kids were born, I would say it was definitely one of the more struggling times that I had with my mother-in-law. She would send stuff that wouldn't be applicable, and she kept doing it to the point where I finally had to have like a coming to Jesus with her. Like, you've got to stop. This is very disrespectful. I have way too much going on. And my husband was very reticent to like speak up and say things. Like, he would, and then like he wouldn't. And I'm very like, hey, like, get it together. But he really wouldn't. And even if he would, she just wasn't one of those people that was overly receptive. And so that was one of the other things I had to really learn about her, and why I've had to be kind of the way that I am about our relationship, is because, you know, she's not a person that's used to other people's informing like the things that she says or that she does or anything like that. And so, and I'm not a person that's like cool with you just kind of stepping all over me either. So I was like, yeah, you cannot do that. Books that she would send, you can't send those books. We're not keeping those books. Or toys, like, yeah, we don't need that. Like, stop it. You know, my husband would be like, too many toys. She, like, even just for this past Christmas, she was sending all these like ancillary toys that weren't applicable. And I'm like, what is this? Like, why is she doing this? And he finally talked to her, and it was no malintention, as it turned out. But it was just, you know, so now I have to be the keeper of crap. Like, I'm not doing so stuff like that irritates me. But you know, she really does like me. She really does care for me. And I really do care for her. I mean, like, one situation in particular, and she's older and she lives alone, and she got hurt really bad. She burned herself on her knee, like 3rd degree burns, second degree burns. And she never said anything to my husband. For a month, she didn't say anything. And then once and my husband's not one of those people who doesn't ask a lot of questions, but I'm one of those kind of quick thinking on my feet kind of people. And I finally like explained to him why this was so dangerous. You know, like, that's an infection, you know, all these different things. So when she came for, I think it was Thanksgiving, again, another heart to heart, like, hey, he's your son, he's your only son. When things like that happen, you have to tell him, because if anything happens to you, you're his mom. And if anything happens to him or anything happens to you, that's going to affect my husband, and that's going to affect my family. So if anything happens to you, he is the first person you call, like, point blank, period, end of story. I don't care. And she just kind of sat there. Was like, oh, because I mean, it was so reckless, like, how he found out the information. No one told him. She didn't tell him. She was minimizing it. And she had like a very serious issue, like, to the point where she was still dealing with it. And I was like, oh my gosh. I didn't even, like, I told him the worst story possible, right? Like, how something bad like that can happen. Like, she got an infection, she didn't realize it, and something worse happened, and then nobody knew, and all this other stuff. And I was like, you can never do that again. I said, you cannot treat my family that way. You cannot treat my husband like that. And she's like, well, he's my son too. And I'm like, well, you're not treating him that way. So, like, in this, for the purposes of this conversation, he's my husband. You cannot treat him that way. Like, he cannot be the last to know about this stuff. He needs to be the first, and, you know, that's the end of the story. So, little things like that. So, and it's, I mean, we're married now over 10 years, and and here we are still dealing with stuff like that. So,
yeah. It's you know, a lot of people in-laws there's pros and cons, and it's like having that community, having those people around you, that's so necessary. But then, you know, the cons, sometimes there's just like, those cons can be lasting cons. It's like, you are affecting my family. Your choices, your behavior are causing strain in my household. You know, I'm not close to my mom either, but while I was married, I started to recognize, like, hey, first of all, this is the family I've chosen. And I felt for my husband because my mom was making things difficult. And I had to step away from her because it's like, I can't jeopardize my family unit because you're choosing to do things that are, contrary to what we believe in, contrary to how we, raise our children. And it was like microaggressions where it was like, undermining us to our children and things like that. And I'm like, see, these are the things we can't do. And she, warning after warning after warning. And I think that's the difference between like my mom acting as an in-law versus my ex-husband's family. For the most part, when I relay to someone in his family, like, hey, this isn't cool, please don't do this, the efforts are made to change it. So
that's good.
That is a huge difference. And that's a huge factor in our dynamic, is like, are you willing to work with me? Like, can we, try to get on the same page? I know we're not going to agree about everything, but like, can you try? Can we work together? And so that is a solid dynamic to have in-laws. And like, you can't put a price on that. Like, it's amazing to have people around who are like, hey, I'm willing to try, so that like, you don't have to cut me out of your life, or you don't want me babysitting or things like that. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I can work with that. But accepting someone else's family, flaws and all, it's a lot. And I think people really need to consider that when they're getting married. Like, can you deal with these people? Like, are you sure? Because it's not just him you're taking on, like, you're taking on all of them.
Well, and the interesting thing is, like, you just never know how people will react once you get married. Because I've known, like, my mother-in-law, when we were dating, was fine. I dealt with her during holidays or whenever, and it was fine. And I promise you, the minute we got married, it was different. It was completely different. And I remember I had a surgery, and she was like, you don't need to be having that surgery. And then I was like, whoa, like, you're really stepping over the line. Or she came. So the funny story is, she came, and my husband is like, he's one of them guys that likes to be kept. Like, he's like, oh, if I don't need to know that, then you got it. So she came, and she just showed up. She showed up one day, and I was like, okay, well, that cannot happen again. But anyway, she came, and then she was asking my husband for like where things were, and he didn't know where they were. And I was like, oh, I got it. And then she was like, no, I want him to show me where this was. And I was like, and he didn't know where it was. And I was just like, I don't know who you think you raised, but this is your son. He's now a husband. He's adapted well to a personality like mine, who just, does the thing. And she was like, and I think that was one thing that happened, and she was like, oh, but then, it was like a moment of realization for a minute, because then it was like continuous. But it was interesting. And like I said, his other family members are great. They send cards, they call. In fact, his aunt, who he's only 3 years younger than, we're traveling out of the country in a couple of months, and so I invited her to see if she wanted to come and go, be there with us. My husband's not going, and she had expressed an interest in wanting to go and visit there. So I was like, she's one of the few people that I would have feel comfortable like hanging around the kids, my sister's kids, my kids. So I mean, everybody's really great, and I definitely love them. It's, but his mom does have some little personality, but I think the other thing that's appreciated is that her quirks are really well known throughout the family. So it's not like it's just a me thing.
that is a big deal. Like, oh, okay, I'm not being ridiculous and being like, what is this about? Like, no, we all see it.
We all see it. We all see it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my husband does have a level of sympathy, empathy, care. Maybe it's even, not even really like, I mean, unawareness. So it doesn't really affect, he doesn't really get all into it, which is fine. It's his mom. But like I said, it carries over then, because then he will, I remember one time he was hanging out with someone, and I was like, you cannot be hanging out with these people and driving and drinking and all this other stuff, and he just didn't get it. And I said, if something happens to you, guess who gets to be the one that calls your mom or your aunt or your dad? So people don't really realize, particularly in marriages, that when you're the wife, you hold a significant amount of responsibility for a lot of things that happen in the family. Like when I struggled to get pregnant, no one was talking to him. They were talking to me like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
What do we do? What do we need to do for you? And
Yep.
so, things happen in the family. You become the bearer of a lot of the weight of the family.
Yep.
So you have to have a partner that's really, who can understand that and who can help you navigate that, because this is their family and you aren't trying to really burn any bridges. So, and you do want them around if everybody can play well in the sand.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I think it's really important to note that there are some ways to help establish, some people are blessed enough to have incredible in-laws. And
right.
I would love to know what that feels like. Like, oh my gosh, I love them so much. Like, really? That's nice. Like, y'all hang out just because? What's that like? But I think there are ways to help facilitate that. And I think one of the ways is just having as open of communication as you possibly can, trying to, confront anything that is an issue. I think that a big part of why a lot of in-law relationships fall apart is because people aren't talking about what the issue is, and then you're just carrying this animosity, and you're like, I can't stand how she always does this, or she always has something to say about this. I think at some point you might need to say something so that you're not carrying all that. It's a lot. It's a whole lot. And then, communicating those boundaries, creating those boundaries, and then understanding that most likely, I mean, just in general with any relationship, people are going to let you down. They're not going to do exactly what you want them to do. So being able to, just because they're family doesn't mean that they're going to be perfect. And, we hope that they will do their best, but people they're going to let us down, and they're going to piss us off. They're going to do it wrong. So just being ready for that. It's going to happen. It is what it is. And then also kind of controlling like how much we are around in-laws. If we know like I can't handle this much of you, like I am a firm believer, like when we moved to Houston, we lived 45 minutes to an hour away from my in-laws. It was perfect. Listen, it's perfect. It's far enough to where you can't just pop over.
Right.
But we can still come see you. We can still be involved. You can come see us. If you want to babysit, cool. But that is like my biggest advice. You do not want to live around the corner from your in-laws.
Yes. If you don't like them. Like if you like them and everybody's...
If you like them, but you know that like I have to have some space from you. I can't
space, right?
All the time.
Right.
Yeah, I like all of my ex-in-laws. I like them all. I genuinely care about all of them, but I don't want to be around the corner from anybody. Like you just popped over just to hang out. Please stop.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Yeah, the boundaries piece in particular. Like I've talked to a lot of friends, and I'm always amazed at how easy people violate boundaries. I'm really amazed by it.
Family, because there's this weird dynamic of like we're family, so we're supposed to work it out. When I stopped having a relationship with my mom, I got a lot of flack. That's your mom. You should always do this and this. And I'm like, what about like what's going on with me? What's healthy for me? With families, they are quick to be like, yeah, too bad. I'm doing this anyway. We're family, and you're still gonna love me anyway. Like, well, I love you, but I don't want you around now.
And I think that's why I am the way that I am with like his mom in particular, but anyone from a relationship perspective, interpersonal relationship, like extra, outside, I try not to invest too much energy in it, but like interpersonal relationships, I had to make some really hard choices as we led up to marriage and even a little bit thereafter. But I did them because the relationship that I have with my husband, the relationship that I have with my kids is top priority. Yep. And I wasn't going to at all compromise that for anyone, mother, father, anyone. I just wasn't. And because of that, I fairly or unfairly expect the same. So, I do. I just, I'm like, if this is a boundary for us, you agree it's a boundary for us, then we need to communicate that. You need to be the one to communicate that. And we have to stick by it. I don't, my brother, he grew up very differently than I did. He's 17 years younger. He told me he was watching a show with the kids. No, bro, you can't do that. You cannot, it's inappropriate. Well, I was watching it when I was their age. Good for you. That was inappropriate then. It's inappropriate now. Don't ever do it again. So it's just all about setting those boundaries and making sure that people know that's where you stand on different situations, because, otherwise, you feel like you're giving too much up of yourself just to appease a relationship, and it's not worth it to me. It really isn't. I feel like I give up too much as it is as a mom.
Yeah, sure.
Just like living life being a mom, and I don't need to do that for relationships, that don't honor me. And obviously, I think this is the other thing. We're not asking rocket science from you. We're not asking the world from you. These are kind of basic things. Like you said, like you don't drink Coke if your kids don't drink Coke or pop or whatever, just don't give it to them. Like, I get it that you do and you think it's cool, but we don't, and I don't want it. End of story.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, like, the parents say rules over everything. Like, Yep. I mean, I think, just to wrap everything up, I feel like the key point of maintaining relationships with in-laws is just setting boundaries and communicating. It's, I don't know if the majority of people out there have like an incredible relationship with their in-laws where they're just besties. So I think most of us are kind of in the same group where it's like, I care about you. You mean a lot to me. And, but you do things that bug me. Boundaries. And I think we're all kind of in the same boat, just setting those boundaries, communicating those boundaries, and coming at it from a place of love. You do care about these people. That's and, having those relationships are really important for just the family unit as a whole. If you have supportive and helpful in-laws, try your best to maintain those relationships. But also, if it's not working for you, you don't have to deal with those people. Shut it down if you need to.
Shut it down. And like you said, I mean, support those relationships that are good for your family. Don't, like, I do send the cards and the pictures and things like that because they send it to us. They always remember our kids' birthday, things like that. So do the things that are, it doesn't have to be, tit for tat, but if it's a good relationship, it is important to foster it. And just imagine all of the more of what your kids have access to as they grow up and can learn, and they'll get tired of hearing our voices one day. So I'm happy that they have other people to reach out to that they can talk to. So that's the other important thing.
Having that village, even if your village is not going to be perfect, but you have a village. So that's, that's awesome.
Yes.
All right. Well, enough about the in-laws, because I was starting to sweat a little bit because I was like, there are other things. Again, like I said, I'm not trying to bash anybody, and like a couple stories popped into my head, and it was like,
I know, you're like, I'm not gonna say it.
Hold off on those. This isn't the place.
And honestly, like I even say, I mean, my husband, like, we had a really bad experience with my in-laws during a funeral here recently, and I just, it is what it is. But I'm one of those people. I'm like, okay, well, that's never going to happen again. Sorry you experienced that, so that won't happen again. And I'm very, like I said, self-aware that, oh yeah, mistake on my end. I didn't realize that was going to happen. So I won't be asking us to participate in that again.
Yep. There's setting a boundary. Good for you.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, we are going to introduce another segment. I'm calling it Caffeinated Confessions. I don't have one just yet, but I'm going to turn it over to Tiffany. This is just going to be something we share where it's like, yeah, so what had happened was. Like, tell us one of those embarrassing stories where it's like, oh my gosh, what was happening? Do you have a confession for us today?
I do. This is my favorite confession because and let me put the context in. This was 21 years ago. I was 24 years old. My brother at the time was 7 or 6 going on 7 or 7 going on 8. I can't remember. Either way, it was about the age that my kids are today. And we went down to my father's. We have different fathers, but he went down to my father's for with me, and my sister was there as well for Christmas. And so he lives in southern Georgia. We were flying back. We were in the Atlanta airport, and we were hungry, so we got something to eat. Like it was like a Luby's or something like that. And then, as a kid does at 7 or 8 years old, and we couldn't pack the food up, so it was like on a tray. And we couldn't take the food out. So just as we sit down, he says he has to use the bathroom. And I'm like, can't you hold it? Nope, he can't hold it. So I'm like $20 in, which feels like a lot of money to me at the time, or maybe it was $40. I don't know, but it was a bit of money into it. We had just sat down. I had one of two options. I could either send him to the bathroom by himself, or I could throw all this food away that we just bought. Those were the two options. I chose the first option. I sent him to the bathroom by himself. It was a bad decision. Because I'm sitting there, and it's, the feeling when you realize that you just made a bad decision and you're hoping it's not a bad decision. The minute he walked out, I knew it was a bad decision. So I wait. He doesn't come back. So then I'm like, then I have to throw the food away anyway.
Oh no. Oh my gosh.
And then he wasn't in the bathroom, and the temperature in my body, the anxiety, the fear is growing exponentially with every millisecond. Like, forget seconds, with every millisecond. There's parts of the story that I don't even remember because it took my sister to tell me that I called her immediately, which I remember calling her. I thought I called her after the fact. She said I called her immediately. I'm like looking around. I'm frantic, absolutely frantic. I go up to the desk. I ask if anyone has seen him, and they can't even understand me. I'm thinking I'm talking at a regular speed, and it's the Atlanta airport. Like I thought I was going to be disowned. Like it was all that I was inconsolable. And then thankfully a couple minutes later, I see him walking, and just like a movie, Ashley, I see him walking. He's with an airport person, so he had found somebody. And I get up to him, and I start crying. I told you I cry every time I tell this story.
Oh my gosh!
I literally fall down to the ground on my knees, and I touch him all over. And he's trying to explain to me what happened. And he went to the bathroom, and he walked wrong direction out, so he turned left instead of right. Oh yeah, I might actually start crying. I told you I cry every time I tell the story, and I am
so terrifying.
I am inconsolable. I am literally bawling on the ground, and he realizes, as he's telling me what happened, that she thought I was lost, and I was like, I'm bawling like inconsolably, and then I finally pick myself up off the floor. And he's like, it's okay. And he's like rubbing my back. He's rubbing my back because I am bawling. Like I am absolutely bawling. And so this is the point. Okay, so I must have called my sister because I called her back and I told her that I found him. Because she was ready to come up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That just
so
so anxious. thinking about it. Like I feel it. Oh my god.
So like and today I couldn't even imagine doing something like that. I would have thrown away the food, right? Like this is like this is an obvious decision at this point. But yeah, but he was so, I was like, hey, do you remember the bathroom? Do you remember to go? Just come right back. And it's a boy, right? So there's no sitting down. There's just, you're just peeing, right?
Yeah.
I didn't anticipate that he was going to turn the wrong way out, right? So I didn't give that extra set of directions. Like, remember to turn right when you come out the back. Like, I didn't do that. Oh my goodness.
Ooh. I can't.
So I was like ready to shut the airport down. I was like, what do I need to do? I was for sure he was gone. And that's why I say, like, forget seconds. Like, with every millisecond, I was just like, I was becoming more and more scared. So confessions of a 24-year-old Tiffany.
Yeah. And the things you don't think about back then, you're just like, it's fine, go to the bathroom, fine.
Yeah. And I mean, like, he sounded mature, right? Like, at 24, a 7-year-old who feels mature.
Yes.
Like,
you're like, you got it, cool.
You got it, you're good. You know how to get back to me here, right? You know you're gonna come right back here.
Yeah.
At 45, I would never let my kids, right? Like we don't even let them run too far ahead of us.
Right. Yep.
Like, if they turn the corner and I can't see them, I'm like, hey, come back.
Yes, exactly. Oh gosh. Woo. Well, I'm so glad that story has a happy ending. Oh my god.
Very happy ending. And it was one, and like I said, we told it finally to our kids, I think this time last year. Yeah, it was this time last year. My sister was there and we were telling the story, and the kids could feel it. They like, no joke, they were like, okay, we'll never do that.
Yeah.
Because I almost started crying then.
I don't want that to happen.
Yes. So I've used it to, like, impress upon them the importance of not getting lost.
Yeah. Oh yes. Thank you so much for that confession. I knew the ending and I was still like, oh my god. I know your brother's fine. And I'm still
he's fine.
What? Oh my gosh.
But it was like a movie. I literally fell down on the ground like a movie. Like, if you would see a movie where a child, like, gets lost in the same way and the parent falls down on the ground, that's real life. That's exactly what you do. Like, you're kissing them, you're touching all over them.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it was. But the thing that also taught me in that moment was that the resilience and the intelligence was that he found an airport official. Like, he didn't just grab a random person. Like, I saw the tag. And so that was the other overwhelming part of it in the situation. I was like, okay, he's doing what to do and he's fine. But oh my God, this is all my fault. I mean, it was all my fault. And I was, yeah.
Ooh.
So.
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
You're going to be like looking at your son like, I love you so much.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. Ooh. All right. I'm fine. Switching gears. Let's jump into our Houston Mom's House Blends for this week. What is your house blend that you think our listeners need to be checking out?
Oh my goodness. So I do not drink beer, everybody. It's not one of my favorites, but I did come across the article, Babies and Beer, a guide to Houston's kid-friendly breweries. And let me tell you, this is one of... you guys should definitely check this out, because she details all the different breweries that you can go to that you can take your kids. But guys, there's like 22 breweries on this list. Mm-hmm. Like, it is the longest list of recommendations I've ever seen us do. And it was great. It was super great. Like, there's one in Conroe that I was like, okay, I might drive to Conroe for this.
Yeah. I love lists like this because even if you aren't a beer drinker, it's fun to like have a place where you can hang out and mingle with other adults, and then your kids still be like hanging out, playing, having a good time. You don't have to be on so much as mom. You can be around adults, and it's not like Chuck E. Cheese where it's just like madness and kid stuff. everywhere.
Yes.
So yeah, these lists are super valuable so that you can find that happy medium of like an experience with your kids. And with the weather warming up and it being so pleasant outside when it's not raining, these are perfect places to go visit and keep your family entertained, but also hang out with other people. So,
and who knew that there could be at least 22 of these in the city?
Yeah.
Like she gets it from everywhere, like city of Houston and even the outskirts. I was impressed. This is a great list.
Yes, awesome. My house blend this week is called Top 5 Amazon Prime Gifts for Teacher Appreciation Week. So it is Teacher Appreciation Week this week. And if you have no ideas or if you need a last minute gift, I know I'm being very last minute this week. I'm like, oh yeah, it is this week. So, we're here on Monday and I have yet to narrow down what I'm doing, but I plan to use this list because yes, teachers deserve all the appreciation. I try really hard to, show some love throughout the school year and just like, how can I support? How can I be there for you? What do you need? What does your classroom need? But this is perfect for, showing your favorite teachers how much they mean to you. So this list is a great resource for finding those last minute gifts. Things that teachers actually want. It took me a long time to understand, like, they don't all want like a new mug. They have all the mugs. There are other options. So this is why I love lists like this, because I run out. This is where my creativity ends. It's like, well, what do you need? Right. Like, I don't know. So definitely check out this post so you can show your teachers some extra appreciation this week.
Awesome.
Okay. So I did mention in our last episode that I plan to do something called the Coffee Corner. And this is where I'm hoping our listeners will write in if they have questions, if there's a topic that they want us to start to explore, anything like that. So we aren't starting this just yet, but I do want to let y'all know that we do have an email address. It's the Cold Coffee Club HM, like Houston Moms, at gmail.com. If you have any kind of questions, you can reach out to us there, or you can like DM us on the Real Houston Moms Instagram. Anything, we'd love to hear from you. If you have comments or if it's just something, I've seen a lot of comments on our Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We have quite a few followers and they're like, hey, I love this. Oh, this is so much fun. But, send us the messages directly. We'd love to hear from you and involve you in the show a little bit and give you a shout out if you're interested in that. And so, check out Coffee Corner once we have it up and running. We'd love to talk about what our listeners are talking about.
Awesome. That sounds exciting.
Yeah. All right, so we always wrap up with a see you later caffeinator, and this is just a word of advice, especially with dealing with in-laws. Y'all, it's stressful dealing with in-laws, and I cannot encourage you enough. I work for a therapy clinic, and I had someone call in. I guess we had reached out to them. We'd had the wrong number or something, and so they had called us back, and, I was telling them, I said, were you looking for something? Like, we're a therapy clinic. How can we help you? And he said to me, no, I don't need any help. I don't need like mental health help. I'm normal. And I was like, what? So it's abnormal to go to therapy. What?
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, you're saying you're fine. I'm fine, but I also go to therapy. And so, I cannot recommend enough that therapy is great. If you are dealing with those difficult in-laws, if it's like coming with all kinds of baggage, every family has their stuff. And, when you marry into a family, you become part of that stuff, whether you want to or not, you get involved. And I think it is so important to really prioritize taking care of yourself. There are so many options for getting mental health care. I recommend betterhelp.com. I love that, you can do therapy virtually, but even the therapy clinic I work for, Ajana Therapy, we do telehealth, and it's way more convenient than y'all realize. It's easier than you would expect. And, there are lots of pricing options. I know lots of people are more concerned about like, oh, it's going to cost me so much money. I don't want to do that. But there are so many options for you. And when dealing with, the taking on the role of getting married, that already has its stuff. And then dealing with that new family, it's a lot. And I think, especially if you have people, if your in-laws are on board to go to therapy together, that is such a gift. I have known so many of my friends who do like family therapy, where they go together as a group, like, hey, we have our stuff going on and we want to work together to get better. Yeah. It's a huge gift if you can do that. But if you can't get everyone on board together, take care of you first and foremost. Make sure you're getting the support that you need. So that's just kind of how I want to end the episode. Yeah. Get the help you need, because it's a lot. Yeah. It is a whole lot.
It's a whole lot.
Yeah.
I see a therapist every couple of weeks, and it's been a lifesaver in the last year and a half. So I second exactly what Ashley said. Yes. Please do.
It is not abnormal to go to therapy. It does not mean that you're not okay.
It actually means you're okay, people. It actually means you're just okay. Because this life is hard out here. So,
it is hard.
In case you don't know, we're all walking around just like broken.
Yeah. I mean, we've all got the stuff. We've all got our stuff. All right. Well, thank y'all so much for listening to the Cold Coffee Club. Tiffany, thank you for being here. And
absolutely.
I'm so excited to see what the rest of this podcast continues to look like with you and Bree on board.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Take care, everyone.
Right. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Cold Coffee Club, brought to you by Houston Moms. We wish you a fabulous week with your families and look forward to sharing many more cups of cold coffee with you.